Okay, thank you very much. I hope everyone already can see my slide, which is already shared by me now. So first of all, I would like to say thank you very much for the great honor to be invited to this symposium, international symposium. So to make the time is not running out, I will like to start my presentation. So I will talk about the potential application of epigenetics for stem cell on nutrition and health. Why I put epi? Because we now already more confirm that the change in the epigenetics is more influence for a stem cell. So first, I would like to explain what is stem cell. Stem cell is characterized by two characteristics. First, it has to be self-renew or can make its own type of cell. The second one, it has to be become able to differentiate into another cell types. So this is a two characteristic of a cell, which is can be called stem cell. The first stem cell is actually zygote. The zygote is totipotent, meaning it has a potential to differentiate to all cell types in our body or in animal body. Then the zygote will become morula, blastula, and if we cut the blastula, we can see the inner cell mass, which is if we isolate in vitro, it can become what we call embryonic stem cell. Embryonic stem cell is pluripotent, not totipotent. What is the difference? Pluripotent means it can become many cell type, but cannot attach to the uterus because the embryonic stem cell cannot make extrauteral tissue. So this is the difference between totipotent and pluripotent. We cannot make new individuals using only embryonic stem cell. And if this development continue in vivo, and also if we culture embryonic stem cell, actually we can have somatic stem cell. And somatic stem cell is multipotent, meaning they can only differentiate into cell type in their system. So for example, we have ectodermal layer, which is contain neural stem cell. And neural stem cell can only differentiate into cell type in the nervous system if we talk about natural differentiation. But in reality, if we modify the environment and also the genetic content of the neural stem cell, actually they can transform into mesodermal or endodermal type of cell, which is I will get into it in the next slide. So first, neural stem cell. Neural stem cell, of course, can self-renew because it is stem cell. Then it can become or differentiate into neuron, the main cell type in nervous system, can become astrocyte and can become oligodendrocyte. And this is what we call a phase specification and differentiation. The stem cell have to decide which cell type they want to become. And this decision is also temporarily developed during the development of the individual. So for example, in early gestation period, neural stem cell can only become neural stem cell. They divide and divide, making a pool of stem cell. And then in the mid gestation, the neural stem cell have the ability not just become neural stem cell, but also making neurons. And in the late and until adult, we can have neural stem cell that can become neural stem cell and can become neuron and can become glial. Glial is the astrocyte and oligodendrocyte. So this is what kind of thing responsible for this? We know this is because intrinsic and extrinsic factor. The intrinsic factor is mainly epigenetics. So what is epigenetics? This is a heritable change in gene expression, but without change in the DNA sequence. So we can have the exactly similar DNA sequence of a cell, but we can have different expression of the gene depending on the cell type. And these differences influences by environment. I will get to that later. So what kind of epigenetic mechanism available now? So two main epigenetic mechanism, DNA methylation and histone modification. We also have a microRNA, but I will not get to the microRNA topics today. So if we have DNA, then DNA can be attached by methyl group, especially in the CPG sequences, meaning C nucleotide, C contained nucleotide, and then followed by the G contained nucleotide. So we call it a CPG methylation. And if this DNA is wrapped in the protein called histone to make chromosome, actually this histone have a tail, peptide tail, which can be modified by methyl, acetyl, phosphor, and other type of chemical. So we call it histone modification. And beside that epigenetic or intrinsic mechanism, cell also influenced by cytokine, which is available outside the cell. So for example, here we have a leukemia inhibitory factor, which is can attach to the GP130 and LIV receptor and make a cascade of phosphorylation that make two subunits of STAT3 become phosphorylated, and this STAT3 phosphorylated protein can enter nucleus and attach to the promoter of GFAP, which is a gene for astrocyte differentiation. And in the same time, or synergistically, BMP2 or bone morphogenetic protein 2 can attach to bone morphogenetic protein receptor 2 and 1 and phosphorylated SMADs with SMAD4, and these phosphorylated SMADs can enter and attach to promoter and bridge it with a transcription factor P300 can make transcription of GFAP. And these intrinsic and extrinsic things actually working together. So for example, if you remember, I said that the mid-gestational neural stem cell can only make neuron because the promoter is actually methylated. The promoter of GFAP or astrocytic gene is actually methylated. Therefore, if LIV or BMP2 available across the cell or outside the cell, and they stimulate STAT phosphorylation, STAT cannot attach to the promoter of this astrocytic gene, making it off. So we don't have astrocytic gene on, only off astrocytic gene. This make neural stem cell can only become neuron because STAT3 cannot attach. And if this mid-gestational neural stem cell divide, there will be passive demethylation of the promoter, so no methyl in the promoter region. So if LIV and BMP2 induce cell in this time, STAT3 can attach to the promoter and make astrocytic gene become on. And stem cells acquire a capability to become astrocyte. And if no LIV or BMP, meaning no STAT and no SMAD, and then promoter, no STAT3 or SMAD, then astrocytic gene off, they become neuron. So late gestational neural stem cell can become astrocyte and become neuron. So this is because of the DNA methylation regulation. And we also have a histone modification, like I already said. So this is, for example, histone. We have 4 types of histone. And if this histone, this is the tail of the histone with the peptide. This is the code for the peptide. Many chemical can attach to this, like a methyl, acetyl, phosphor, and other thing. Then we call it acetylation, methylation, or phosphorylation, and other types of things. And then we can use this kind of combination of chemical that attach to the histone tail to distinguish whether gene or sequence is actually active or inactive. And what is this relation to nutrition or with the food that we eat? So actually this methyl, acetyl, phosphor, and ubiquitin and other type of chemical that mark the histone tail or DNA is actually come from our food. So this is the chemical that we use to make this kind of marking in the histone tail and also in DNA. So meaning our food or our nutrition really important to regulate our gene expression despite of the similar gene sequence that we have. And if you can see here, for example, we can have active niche of a gene or cluster of gene if we have many acetyl-CoA available around this cluster of genes. And if we have many NAD plus chemical from our food, for example, then we can have inactive niche in our cluster of genes. And I would like to talk about one histone modification, which is acetylation. So DNA actually have a negative charge and histone tail is actually positive. So meaning DNA and histone really wrap together and we cannot have any protein attached if the structure is like this. So we have off transcription in this gene. But if acetyl group or acetylation is happen, then the histone tail lose its positive charge and then DNA become loose, then this protein can attach to its place in the promoter region and start transcription. So we can have an on transcription. And the vice versa happen if acetyl is detached by the process called deacetylation and become this off again. This is very dynamic. This is depend on the enzyme called histone acetyl transferase or HAT and histone deacetylase, HDAC. We will discuss about this enzyme, HDAC, or histone deacetylase. One of the histone deacetylase inhibitor, so meaning inhibitor of this process, so we can have on transcription of gene because of the HDAC inhibitor is valproic acid. So valproic acid is a chemical available in the plant, which is already being used by the Greek and the Romans long time ago as a part of their culture in nutrition. That plant is Valeriana officinalis. And we synthesize the analog of this chemical, which is a pentanoic acid. And we have this analog called 2-propyl pentanoic acid, or we call valproic acid. And this has become the established drug in treatment of epilepsy since 100 years ago. So this is a normal plant which is used by culture as a nutrition and herbal medicine. And this have the effect to influence our epigenetics. So the first paper that show the effect of this chemical from this plant, synthesized from this plant, is that if we have neurostem cell in blue, and then we put this valproic acid as a HDAC inhibitor, we can have neurostem cell become neurons. So this is green is neuron. And then if we put a stem cell and give them leaf and BMP2, which is already discussed earlier, induce astrocytic differentiation, so we can have more astrocyte, but only few neurons. So this is already known before. And if we put IGF-1 or insulin growth factor 1 to stem cell, then it will become oligodendrocyte. and only few neurons. But which is amazing is if we have LEAF and BMP2, which should induce astrocytic differentiation, but we add valproic acid or HDAC inhibitor, the astrocytic differentiation is gone. So we can only see many neurons, not astrocyte. And also what amazing is if we put IGF-1 that should induce oligodendrocytic differentiation, but we add valproic acid and HDAC inhibitor, the stem cell become neuron, not oligodendrocyte. This means that HDAC inhibition is very important for neuronal differentiation, or histone modification or histone acetylation is important for neuronal differentiation, even though there are chemicals that induce the other way around. So maybe you're familiar with this Superman figure, which is played by actor Christopher Reeve in the 70s.
Excuse me, Dr. Berry.
Yes.
Your time is only 1 minute left. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Christopher Reeve become paralyzed because of spinal cord injury. And when spinal cord injury happened, actually, we need more neuron and oligodendrocyte, but not astrocyte. And we try to make a mouse model that represent spinal cord injury and try to transplant the neural stem cell in the site of spinal cord injury. And this is the video of a mouse model, which is paralyzed in the hind limb. And then without treatment, the mouse is still paralyzed. And if we transplant neural stem cell, it can move, but cannot support its body weight. But what is amazing was that if we put neural stem cell and we modified the histone modification by valproic acid or epigenetically modified neural stem cell, the mouse can walk and support their body like the normal situation. So because of the time limit, let me go directly to the final slide, which I want to elaborate that actually we have what we call bioprospective, meaning we try to evaluate the plant, chemical, or herbal or food that already being used by society and try to see whether they can influence neural stem cell in the brain or hippocampus that regulate memory. So what we eat actually can regulate stem cell in our brain for memory. So for example, we can have a Y-maze test for the mice. So if mice put in this arm, we can see whether they can move to the right arm. So for example, A, B, C, meaning they have the right alternation. But if they move from A to B and then C, and then back to B, meaning they have a wrong alternation because B is already being entered previously. If we count this, we can have what we call correct alternation, meaning we can test the memory of the mice. And what I want to share is that for the 5 years, we already tried to see several plants, for example, kemangi, tapak dara, pegagan, anting-anting, red spinach, bacopa, green tea, kemenyan, grapeseed, and also several control to see which plant have effects in memory and in stem cell in our brain. So let me show you the result of the kemenyan, which is very interesting because kemenyan usually not being.
Excuse me, Dr. Berry.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So in conclusion, we have these many plants that can regulate our stem cell in our brain and can enhance our memory, including kemenyan, and this all already published, so you can read the detail in the publication. Thank you.
Able to see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
It's very clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So a very good afternoon to everyone, and thank you all so much for attending this session. So today I'm going to talk to you all about no one size fits all diet. I'm going to talk about how we are all moving from the universal dietary recommendations towards a personalized nutrition. So for which a better understanding of what is nutrigenetics is very much required. But before going into that, I'm going to briefly touch upon what is healthy lifestyle. So we all talk about the healthy lifestyle a lot, and dietitians and nutritionists, this is exactly, they have been prescribing to all their patients about following a healthy diet, following a healthy lifestyle. So what is it? So at a population level, the healthy lifestyle refers to the universal dietary recommendations. So it basically refers to the practices of the population groups that are consistent with supporting, improving, and maintaining the health. That is following the universal dietary recommendations, consuming a lot of vegetables, consuming a lot of fruits, and 5 fruits a day. So we have all been following all these dietary recommendations for several decades. But still, the prevalence of obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, they are all increasing. Why? Because we are not looking at the healthy lifestyle at an individual level. Not everyone can become a sports person. Very few people become successful in the field of sports. That's because that is all present in their DNA. And there's something called as a genetic risk. And the level of genetic risk varies from one individual to another individual. So at an individual level, the healthy lifestyle refers to the practice of health-enhancing behaviors, the behaviors which are unique for you. So in order to understand that uniqueness, one size fits all approach doesn't exist anymore. We all need to think about the personalized lifestyle. So with that background, let's move on to what is nutrigenetics and what is nutrigenomics. Nutrigenetics refers to the study of the impact of the DNA sequence variations on chronic disease outcomes in response to a particular diet. For example, if I have a high genetic risk and I'm consuming a high protein diet, what is the risk of developing obesity? So in order to answer this question, I have to do a nutrigenetic study, that is a gene-diet interaction study. Whereas nutrigenomics refers to the impact of the diet on gene expression, how the DNA is converted to RNA and how the RNA is converted to protein. So you're looking at the gene expression, how the diet that we are consuming is entering into the cells and entering into the nucleus and binding to the DNA, nourishing the DNA and contributing to the expression of the genes. And that study is nutrigenomics, and findings from nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics are essential for the implementation of the personalized nutrition. The personalized nutrition is where you're developing an optimum diet for an individual according to that individual's genetic makeup. For example, if I carry a high genetic risk, what is the kind of diet I should consume? That is personalization. So with regards to the nutrigenetics, which is basically focusing on gene-diet interactions, so I'm going to give you some examples of the nutrigenetic studies that I've done in the developed countries and the developing countries. So looking at the nutrigenetic status in developed countries, so it all started off with the discovery of this obesity gene. So this gene was discovered exactly 13 years ago. And once this gene was discovered, people strongly believe that if they carry a high genetic risk of this particular gene, then they are destined to become obese. So epidemiologists decided to test whether doing more levels of physical activity or consuming a healthy diet, can that overcome the genetic risk of obesity? So that was a time the field of nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics, they all came into picture. So let's have a look at how healthy diet can overcome the genetic risk of obesity. So we carried out a study in 11,000 people from 5 different European countries where we found an interaction between the genetic risk and protein intake on weight gain. So all these 11,000 people were followed up for 3.5 years. So in this graph on the x-axis, you find the protein intake in percentage. On the y-axis, you find the weight change per year. The 3 lines that you see, basically individuals carrying the 2 copies, 1 copy, and 0 copy, which is nothing but the 0 copy refers to the low genetic risk, and 1 copy is moderate genetic risk, and the 2 copies refers to the very high genetic risk. And you can see that individuals consuming high amounts of protein intake, that is, as the protein consumption increases, individuals carrying a high genetic risk, the annual weight gain significantly increased, whereas the annual weight gain did not increase significantly for people carrying a moderate genetic risk or a low genetic risk. So this clearly highlights the fact that individuals consuming high amounts of protein-rich foods, they are at a high genetic risk, which means that lowering the protein intake, that is less than 17% of the total energy intake, might be an effective way to reduce weight in those individuals who carry a high genetic risk. So, which means that the protein consumption is definitely good, but anything in excess can have a negative impact on health outcomes. And the second study was basically a study which was done in, again, in European individuals, but we focused on the Mediterranean diet. So the Mediterranean diet is something that is considered as a healthy diet, which is rich in omega-3 fatty acids, fruits, vegetables, and also the olive oil. So we know that consuming high amounts of Mediterranean foods can help you to improve your health outcomes. So in this graph on the x-axis, you find the Mediterranean diet score, which means that higher the score, higher the consumption of the Mediterranean foods. On the y-axis, you find the weight change per year. The three lines that you see, basically, they're the low genetic risk, moderate genetic risk, and a very high genetic risk. And you can see that individuals consuming high amounts of Mediterranean foods, they alone were able to reduce their weight gain, despite the fact they carry a high genetic risk. So which means that even if you carry a high genetic risk, you can reduce your weight gain by consuming a healthy diet, such as the high amounts of Mediterranean food. So that's a take-home message from these studies that were done in the European population, that is basically in the developed countries. So the take-home message is that even if you carry a high genetic risk, it doesn't mean that you're destined to become obese. You can still overcome the genetic risk by consuming a diet which is suitable for you. This is not a universal diet. This is a diet which is suitable for your genetic makeup. If you have a high genetic risk, and consuming high amounts of Mediterranean foods can overcome the genetic risk. Now let's have a look at what is the situation in developing countries. So as I said before, the healthy lifestyle can definitely overcome the effect of the gene on obesity. It is not the genetic factor alone or the lifestyle factors alone. It is basically the interaction between the genetic and the lifestyle factors. So looking at the nutrigenetic studies in developing countries, it's very interesting. The reason why I'm showing you this picture is that you can see that the dietary pattern is different across different countries. The environmental conditions are different as well. And the genetic makeup is also unique for every ethnic group. So let's have a look at all these gene-diet interactions in different parts of Asia and different parts of the world. So I started this collaboration called as a genuine collaboration. The genuine stands for the gene-nutrient interaction, and the main objective is to implement the nutrigenetic research in contrasting ethnic groups. These are the countries in which have implemented the nutrigenetic studies, and these are some of the publications, and these are the funding organizations which have supported my work. So I'm going to give you some examples of the studies that I've done in different parts of the world, but the question is why nutrigenetic study is so important in developing countries. So first of all, each and every country has got a unique genetic makeup. And secondly, the dietary pattern is unique, but varying across different parts of the country. For example, if you take the Indonesian diet, it is very unique. But if you compare the northern Indonesia or the southern Indonesia, the dietary pattern varies. And there's an increased prevalence of type 2 diabetes and obesity, not only in Indonesia, across the globe. So without nutrigenetics, there's no future for personalized nutrition. And that was the main objective why I wanted to implement nutrigenetic studies in each and every ethnic group. So starting with the first nutrigenetic study that I implemented in the Asian Indian population. So this study was done in 2,000 individuals from South India. So we know that the South Indians, they do consume significant amount of carbohydrate-rich foods. So in this graph on the x-axis, you find the tertiles of carbohydrate, low, medium, and high consumption of carbohydrate. On the y-axis, you find the odds ratio for obesity. The red bars are individuals who carry a high genetic risk. And you can see that the overall interaction was highly significant, where we found that individuals consuming high amounts of carbohydrate-rich foods, that is consuming more than 500 grams of carbohydrate per day and carrying a very high genetic risk, and if they happen to be a South Indian, then their risk of obesity increases by 2.46 times. So which clearly highlights the fact that the South Indian population is consuming high amounts of carbohydrate-rich foods, which is basically the driving factor for increasing the genetic risk. The next study was done in the Sri Lankan population, which is another South Asian population, but the kind of diet is almost the same. The dietary composition, which is quite rich in carbohydrate, but the way they cook and the way they eat and different dietary lifestyles are literally different from that of the South Indian population. So in this graph on the x-axis, you find the tertiles of carbohydrate. On the y-axis, you find the waist-hip ratio. The red bar is a high genetic risk, and the white bar with dots is a low genetic risk. And you can see that individuals consuming high amounts of carbohydrate-rich foods, that is consuming more than 450 grams of carbohydrate per day and carrying a high genetic risk, they have significantly higher levels of waist-hip ratio. That is, waist-hip ratio is basically an indicator of central obesity. And given that the Sri Lankan population is consuming a lot of carbohydrate-rich foods, maybe that could be one of the driving factor for the increased genetic risk of central obesity. And the first nutrigenetic study was done in a Southeast Asian population. This study was done in the Minangkabau community in the Padang city. The Minangkabau is the world's largest matrilineal community. And we looked at the Southeast Asian women living in Padang. So in this study, on the x-axis, you can find that you have the protein energy percentage, the low, medium, and high consumption of protein intake. On the y-axis, you find the waist circumference, and the red bar is high genetic risk, and the white bar, they are the low genetic risk. And if you focus on the lowest tertile of the protein intake, you can see that individuals carrying a high genetic risk, they were able to reduce their waist circumference by consuming a healthy diet such as a low protein diet. Of course, here the low protein diet is almost equivalent to the dietary recommendations of protein intake for the Indonesian population, because these people were consuming high amounts of animal protein, that is about more than 140 grams of protein per day. Of course, their diet includes significant amounts of the animal meat, and which is clear indication of the fact that they will have to reduce their protein consumption to the dietary recommendations, which is what is required for overcoming the genetic risk of central obesity. And the next study was done in the Turkish population, which is a West Asian population, but the diet is almost the same as the Indonesian population, because the Turkish people, they also consume significant amounts of animal meat, and which is one of the reasons why we found an interaction with the protein intake. So in this graph on the x-axis, you find the tertiles of protein. On the y-axis, you find the central obesity. The red bar is a high genetic risk. And you can see that individuals consuming high amounts of protein-rich foods and carrying a high genetic risk, they had 3.3 times increased risk of central obesity. So again, clearly highlighting the fact that they do consume the animal meat, but the way they eat and the way they cook is significantly different. And that is something we need to explore to understand how the meat needs to be cooked and what are the composition and what happens to the meat composition in terms of the cooking styles as well. And the last study is about the example from the Ghanaian population, which is a West African population. Here we found an interaction with the fat intake. Of course, they do consume significant amounts of the saturated fat as part of the breakfast, lunch, and dinner as well. And in this graph on the x-axis, you find the fat intake. On the y-axis, you find the waist circumference. The black bar is a high genetic risk, and the white bar is a low genetic risk. And you can see that individuals consuming high amounts of fat-rich foods and carrying a high genetic risk, they had significantly higher levels of waist circumference. And this clearly highlights the fact that if you are African and if you're consuming high amounts of fat-rich foods and you carry a high genetic risk, then you will have to reduce your fat intake to overcome the genetic risk of central obesity. And of course, this is a typical traditional diet of the Ghanaian population. So in terms of the take-home message, these are the first evidence of all these gene-diet interactions on obesity traits in different parts of the Asia. And these studies clearly highlight the fact that in terms of implementing personalized nutrition, what is the take-home message? That is, as a dietitian or as a nutritionist, if you want to implement a personalized diet for your patient, you need to understand the ethnicity of the patient, first of all. And ethnicity plays a very big role, because without knowing the ethnicity, you cannot prescribe a personalized diet. And that's exactly the reason why I'm doing this nutrigenetic studies in each and every population, because the evidence from each and every population is applicable only for that population. You cannot use the evidence from one population to another population. So if you're interested in knowing more about what I'm doing as part of the genuine collaboration, feel free to go into this publication. So personalized nutrition, as I said before, it is basically the tailoring of the dietary advice. That is, you're developing a diet according to that individual's genetic makeup. But how do we do that? So it all starts from the nutrigenetics and translating it to personalized nutrition. So it all starts with the diet. The diet that we are consuming, it goes and interacts with the DNA, and that area of research is what we have seen as nutrigenetics. And the other field is where you have the gut microbiome. There are several microorganisms in your gut lumen, and which are responsible for maintaining your immunity, your physiological mechanisms, your mental health, and various other health aspects. And the third area is where you call as a nutri-metabolomics, where the diet that you're consuming is interacting with the metabolites, and that is what you call as a metabolite-diet interaction. So in terms of implementing personalized nutrition, you need to look at it as a three-way interaction, that is metagenome, hyperbolome, diet interaction. Of course, not to forget about the epigenetic markers as well, which was mentioned in the previous lecture. So all these factors are required for the implementation of the personalized nutrition. So we are all talking about the universal diets, such as a keto diet, vegan, gluten-free, paleo diet, vegetarian diet. These are all universal diets, which is something more applicable for one-size-fits-all approach. But we are not looking into it. We are looking into a personalized dietary approach. How can we develop a personalization of the dietary strategies according to an individual's genetic makeup? So in terms of that, if you want to implement personalized nutrition, that is developing a population-based dietary recommendation, or at an individual level, these 4 levels of research activities needs to be carried out: nutrigenetics, nutrigenomics, metabolomics, and gut microbiome. But in addition, you also need to understand the biomarker profile, the ethnicity of the patient, the family history, the medication history, the eating quality, the eating behavior, the food preference, the food choice, the dietary intake, the physical activity level. That is more into developing a holistic approach, that is more into precision nutrition, which is required for implementing a kind of a clinical application based on the nutritional phenotype. And this is exactly how you're going to develop personalized nutrition strategy based on the evidence from nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics. That is, we are moving towards a future or developing a revolution in the field of nutrigenetics. In line with that, I'm going to introduce you all to this company called as a Nutrigenetics company, which is in London, which is a personalized nutrition company. And they do provide this genetically personalized plant-based shakes, which is suitable for individuals who want to specialize in the field of sports. So I'm the scientific advisory board member, and we have launched, I feel proud to announce the fact that it's the first time we have launched the world's first genetically personalized sports nutrition drink, which has been tailored according to your DNA. So this is a level of revolution that nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics is introducing the world into. So we need to take this into consideration. So the take-home message from my talk is that even if you carry a high genetic risk, it doesn't mean that you're destined to become obese or diabetic. You can still overcome that genetic risk by going for a personalization of your diet based on your DNA. So in line with that, I would like to thank all my genuine collaborators and all the funding organizations. And finally, thank you all so much for listening to the talk. And if you have any questions, you can drop me an email, available on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter as Vimal Karani. And thank you all once again. And thank you for inviting me to be a part of this event, and happy to take any questions.
Could you see my slide now?
Yes, it's appear there, Ibu.
Thank you, Bu Siti. Okay. So before I talk about my topic today, so if the two two speakers said about personal diet in nutrigenetic and nutrigenomic. Yeah, that's correct. And then because of the personal diet, I think become a nutripreneurship is a very big chance to be a dietitian, I think. So in my talk, this one, little bit different perspective. If previously we listen with nutrigenetic, and how to develop the personal diet based on genetics. So at the moment, I will share how to implement our skill as dietitian to be a little bit business, yeah, little bit dietetic practice to serve the people that need our expertise. So my dietetic practice services start from 2006. This is just start from the very informal talking between me and my colleague from medical doctor, Dr. Putu Moda Arsana and Professor Joko Wahano Suatmaji. Both of them asked to me how I can send my patient to get the dietetic advices when they want to continue their diet after they going home from hospital. So I just thinking, just go to the dietetic clinic in hospital, Prof, or Dr. Putu, but they said, yeah, that's only open in the evening. In the afternoon, morning until the afternoon. Not too much places that open in the evening. So from this chatting, informal chatting, me and my colleague, Ibu Eni from Rumah Sakit Saifullah Anwar, just thinking how to help both of our best friends to provide the nutrition counseling clinic. So start in 2006, we try to open the clinic and the place close with the both of them, with Dr. Putu and Dr. Joko, because we want to help both of them to help their patient to get the information for a good diet after they going home from the hospital, or after they get a suggestion to do good diet after finished from the Dr. Joko or Dr. Putu. So this is the first thinking when I opened to nutrition counseling clinic. That's happened on 2006, yes. And then when the time goes, we just thinking, if medical doctor, it's easy to write the drug prescription for the patient, and then the patient go to the pharmacist to get the drug based on the drug prescription from the medical doctor. After from the pharmacy, they just consume and hopefully they can recovery, getting better. But how about with our services? It means after we give consultation to the patient, yeah, we write the recommendation, the diet prescription, and etc. And then we explain, okay, mom, you should eat like this one. So we give we call leaflet, our diet prescription leaflet. And then I just thinking how the patient can implement 100% what that we already write on the diet prescription. I just wonder, are they sure to follow this diet? I'm not sure about that one. So that's why we just thinking, even we already have the collaboration and coordination with medical doctor, we still thinking how to help patient to have a good diet after they get our diet prescription. So this is what we think about the when we open the dietetic practice in Malang. After that one, we just open the diet. So our spirit is to provide the good diet for our patient after they get our diet prescription. That's all the spirit. And then because of the nutrition and dietetic education in Indonesia have a regulation and keep going to changing and then become better. So just a little bit explanation about the progress of nutrition and dietetic education. Before 1997, there are Diploma 3, Diploma 4 in academic program, and Bachelor in Public Health and Community Nutrition only, and also in agriculture. And then after 2004, the Bachelor of Nutrition become the bachelor that provide nutrition science toward to dietitian. And then in 2016, in Indonesia, start with dietetic program. So after 2016, because they already dietetic program and also bachelor in nutrition, so our government have a regulation. Previously, if we open like a dietetic practice, just open because we have a collaboration with medical doctor. After 2016, I think 13, the Minister of Health have a regulation. It has been right in here that nutrition can be known as a nutritionist and dietitian, and only dietitian can have services to the community in practices and in personal consultation service. So this is the Article 17 in Minister of Health Regulation. They said that nutrition personnel is carrying out nutrition services in healthcare facilities have the following authorities. So we can counseling, we can give nutrition education and dietetic services, but in healthcare facilities. And then we also can conduct education, training, research, and development in nutrition services. And also we can organizing food service for group of people. And then if we continue to read the Minister of Health Regulation in point 18, we have the registered dietitian, the nutrition professional that have authorities to receive client and patient directly to receive dietary prescription from doctor to provide nutrition and dietetic advice for people. So after 2013, my clinic follow this regulation, and I want to share how the steps to open the clinical practices based on this regulation. So in this occasion, I want to share my experience to the candidate of dietitian and also candidate of nutritionist. In the future, if you don't want to continue as a magister or as a PhD, another perspective for your career, you can also open the nutrition dietetic practice, of course, after you finish the dietetic program. So this is just regulation in Indonesia. So hopefully all the dietitian candidate have the what is called, really want to open their dietetic practice, private dietetic practice, yeah. So if you want to open the dietetic practice, this is the step in Indonesia. You should have a data completion, which content of RD certificate. So if you finish with your study, you have the RD certificate, you can start to apply the dietetic practice personal permission. And then the data completion, not only RD certificate, but also health certificate, and then supported by Persagi. Persagi, it means the Association of Nutrition in Indonesia. You can get from the branch in your city, yeah. And then after you get a recommendation from Persagi, you can go to Department of Health, submit your whole data completion, and then the Department of Health, they will come to the place that you will use as the place for the dietetic practice, and then they will see the equipment that must be available in your places. So in the site surveys, Department of Health and Team Survey will review this is fulfill the requirement as the dietetic practice places or not. So this is the mechanism how you can open the dietetic practice to service the community. This is the list of equipment for dietitian practices that you should provide in your places. The first one, of course, you have mass nutrition leaflet, list of food exchange. This one should be available in your places. And then you should prepare the food model and also, of course, the table setting. I know this is just small example, yeah, because in big city, I just know that in Jakarta also there are many dietetic practice in Jakarta, private dietetic practice. But in my understanding, in Malang, not too much. If I can see only one, all of the dietetic practice only in hospital that open in the morning till afternoon. But in that's open in the evening, that's only in the Dietindo. So I think this is the chance for you all, for the dietitian candidate to thinking about this one, because as I explained previously, medical doctor, from the endocrinologist, maybe from the cardiologist, need our help to support the patient have the nutrition recommendation. So if we already study about the nutrition and we don't want to continue to the master, but we take the professional education as a dietitian, this is your chance to open the dietetic practice in private. So this is another list of equipment. You should have microtoa, skin fold caliper, and also body weight scale. And also in room setting, which should provide brochure or this one, the information about ASI, about breastfeeding, and also about the tumpeng that Melissa said before, gizi seimbang, and then another information about health. So if you ready with this all equipment and you ready with the document that submitted to the health department, I think you can open your dietetic practice private. So this one nutrition form, yeah, to assess your patient, and of course, sink for washing hand, especially in the COVID now, it's compulsory to have this one in your dietetic practice. Okay, so this is dietitian, the dietitian that graduate from Brawijaya University. So because we should commit, if we already have permission from from health department, if our name is already put in the board with the specific time to open the practices, so we should commit, because patient will find you at the time when you put in the board this one. This is the picture when my clinic inspection by the Persagi and also by health of department to make sure that our clinic have everything, equipment that should be compulsory ready in our clinic. So that's the step how we can open the personal dietetic clinic. I think that's not too difficult. Hopefully in the future, in Malang also, dietitian will open their dietetic practice. So people can find you to get the nutrition information and nutrition suggestion based on their personal diet. I agree 100% with Dr. Vimal that we should provide the personal diet, because without personal diet, the diet intervention will not give the good effect to our patient.
Ibu Dian,
okay.
You have 2 more minutes, Ibu.
Okay. So this is another thing. If you also want to have the diet catering, the established diet catering, you should target identification. Who will be your target business, and then preparing business resource, of course, consultation room you should have, and equipment, and then preparing human resource and expertise, and preparing other support aspect. This is just small thing that you also know. Have a catering diet also not easy, because we should thinking about continuity to provide food for client. You know that our client, for example, diabetic client, should have 3 times eating exactly in the correct time. So we should make the continuity to provide food for client. And high food costs and additional costs to individual supervised food processing. This one, personal diet make everything not too easy and too cheap, because personal diet need personal supervision also. And then we should thinking about on-time delivery, so that why we should have the courier that send our food. This is our progress. So start from 2006, we just have nutritionists, it's only me. Then one have cooker, one courier, and then at the moment I already have 2 nutritionists that help me, and also 3 dietitians as a consultant, and I have 5 cooker, and I have 3 courier, and we have also website, so people can see our website easily. And because we already have staff to be, that staff that must be have a salary and everything, so we should give we should have what it's called, the different package
time
for
is
diet.
up, Ibu.
Okay, I think that's one, Bu Siti, that's just sharing for me. Conclusion, become a nutripreneurship, you should have networking and collaboration, stay on personal diet, because this is added value for our business, and focus and keep product innovation. Thank you. Okay, Bu Siti, I send back the time to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, is my slide clear? It's clear,
Yes,
right?
yes,
okay. Yes. Thank you so much. A very good sharing from Dr. Berry, Dr. Vimal, and also Prof. Dian. So dear colleagues and friends, thank you for joining us today. So allow me to warmly thank the Food and Nutrition Society of Indonesia, which is the organizer of this international symposium on food and nutrition. And also thank you, Dr. Fu from FNSM Malaysia. So thank you for having me here today. For me, it's really an honor and a pleasure to share about my experience in dietetics, private dietetics practice in Malaysia. So, Ibu-ibu and bapak-bapak sekalian, greetings from Penang, Malaysia. So I'm currently in Penang, which is a small city near to Thailand. Okay, it is at the north part. So I graduated from University of Science Malaysia in Kelantan, Malaysia. So I work in a private hospital in Penang, which is Rumah Sakit Adventist, if you heard about this. I work in that hospital since 2014, and I choose to leave the hospital setting and set up my own dietitian consultation firm last year. So I have been in the private sector since graduating from the university. So today, I'm going to share about what is the definition of dietitian in Malaysia, and where dietitians are most commonly employed, scopes of dietetic practice in the private settings, and what challenges faced and the recommendations to overcome the challenges in private dietetics practice. So in Malaysia, a dietitian is a trained professional who have credible qualification to conduct nutritional assessment, diagnosis, and intervention, and we prescribe and customize the diet, whether it's normal diet or with modification of consistency or nutrient, in order to meet the needs of the individual based on the medical condition. So in short, we focus on prescribing medical nutrition therapy and dietary consultation to treat a certain medical condition. So upon completion of 4 years of degree, we can start practicing in a clinical setting. So now in Malaysia, we have to register under Act of Allied Health Professionals in Malaysia. So you can find dietitians in most government and private hospitals in Malaysia, food service settings, and private practice like what I'm doing now. Community pharmacies, now they also have dietitians to conduct nutritional counseling, dietary counseling to their clients. And you can even find dietitian in some nursing, well-established nursing homes, and also pharmaceutical companies. So for me, my personal experience is I work in private hospital and also a private practice. So the scope of private dietetic practice is to ensure that the patient's nutritional needs is met. And also we have to conduct nutrition care process, which is the assessment, diagnosis, intervention, monitoring, and evaluation. And we have to provide evidence-based and quality service based on the needs of the patient. This is what we mention as personalized nutrition care. So we have to effectively apply knowledge and communicate with other, especially other healthcare team members like nurses, doctors, pharmacists, and so on. So we have to systematically evaluate the safety, quality, and effectiveness of our practice. And then we revise our practice as needed to incorporate the result of evaluation. So we also have to engage in lifelong self-development to improve knowledge and enhance professional competence. Okay, so this is what we do in the clinical dietetics. Okay, so in private hospital, we provide personalized nutrition advice and plan to all inpatient and outpatient in this area. Okay, I'm sorry for the disturbance. Okay, so we provide personalized nutritional advice to all inpatient and outpatient in weight management, chronic illness, cancer, gastrointestinal disorders, general wellness, food allergies, sometimes nutrition support for poor oral intake and tube feeding patients. So most of the inpatient and outpatient are referred by specialists and doctors. We do have some walk-in patient and some staff referred by the doctor. So for in-ward nutrition support, we have to do nutrition risk screening because we know that each individual, they have different responses to food and nutrients. So we have to come out with individualized I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, you just ignore the dogs, but your voice is clear.
All right, okay. Sorry, please give me a minute. Okay, I'm back. Okay.
Yes, please.
So for the in-ward nutrition support, we do provide individualized meal plan for those malnourished and patients with special needs, and also we provide tube feeding nutrition support. So in food service, we monitor and we supervise the therapeutic meal preparation. So as a dietitian in private hospital, we have to go to the kitchen every morning and we supervise the preparation of therapeutic meal. And for community and corporate service, we provide nutrition talk to corporates, okay, and also to the community. So in my own private consultation firm, I provide one-to-one consultation, but I believe that holistic approach is very important because I believe that health is actually a complex interplay between physical, chemical, mental, and sometimes emotional and spiritual aspect. All these have to be taken. So we also focus on post-hospitalization recovery. because sometimes after the patient has been discharged from the hospital, they are quite difficult to get access to medical care, especially dietetics care. So we provide home nursing nutrition support. So our trained dietitian will help them to manage tube feeding or modified diet in the comfort of our patient's own home. So our dietitian will also visit families and guide the caregiver on meal preparation and also tube feeding. So for the community and corporate services, now we are providing health talk and health program at the workplace, and we help some company or corporates to conduct staff health and nutrition screening program. So after the screening program, if they need personalized nutrition care, they can always come to our consultation firm. Okay, and now what we are doing is we collaborate with some non-governmental organization and non-profit organization. In example, we are collaborating with Diabetes Association of Malaysia, and then also we collaborate with Penang Parkinson Association. So next, what are the challenges faced by dietitian in private hospital? First, there's limited referral from the doctor, because most doctors' mindset were that dietitians are not very important for patient care. So some doctor, they will prescribe their own tube feeding regime, or they even provide their own food restriction list to the patient. So my recommendation is what we do. First, we have to make friends with the doctor, because as the saying goes, tak kenal maka cinta. So we have to approaching them proactively for patient referral. Because as a dietitian, we need to portray the image of dietitian. We need to make them know that dietitian is actually one of the support entity to all medical disciplines, and we can help to improve the quality of life of patient. Yeah, but we are not denying the fact that the doctor are still responsible for diagnosing and treating the patient. So it's very important for dietitian to market ourselves to the doctor and to prove that our presence is essential. So when they see the result, they will definitely be confident with us, with our service, and with the effectiveness of personalized nutrition care, rather than the one-size-fits-all nutrition. Okay, so the second recommendation will be, because of lack of referral from the doctors, so we as a dietitian, we can take initiative to educate the nurses on how to do simple health screening. Okay, so those patients at high risk of getting malnutrition, they will be referred to dietitian. So what do? We will pay a short visit to this patient, and then we inform them about our personalized nutrition care service. Okay, so from there, we will get more clients or patients. So the second challenge is lack of effective execution, especially tube feeding and therapeutic diet. Because sometimes after we prescribe the tube feeding regime, right, the nurses may miss out the feeding time, they mess up the feeding regime, and some therapeutic diet prescribed are not delivered to the patient. So my recommendation is we have to provide education to the nurses and to other healthcare team, like the kitchen staff, okay? And we have to have effective communication with them so that they know what should they do. And the third challenge is actually ineffective follow-up system in private hospital, because I think one of the most important thing a dietitian can do is always remain in communication with our patient or client. Because I believe that the more we stay in touch with our patient, the more likely they are to stay on track with their health goal. Because it's not likely to change a person's behavior after just a single session of counseling, right? So this is a very challenging issue for a dietitian in private hospital, as it's not appropriate for us to provide our private phone number to our patients. Hence, we are not able to offer consistent support to them. Furthermore, some patients, they are not willing to purposely come to the hospital just to see a dietitian for follow-up. So what we have to do, we can provide a program for them, which includes several follow-up sessions, and so that we can keep in touch with them consistently and we can assist them whenever they need help during the journey.
Miss, could you please expedite?
Oh,
Time
yeah,
is
okay.
almost up, yeah.
Okay, can. So, how about challenges faced in the private consultation firm? Actually, starting a private consultation firm was something I always wanted to do, but I knew I need experience and a solid foundation before I can step out from the hospital setting. So I worked in the hospital for 5 years, and then only I started my own private consultation firm. But the challenges that we face is we feel like a lone ranger in the private practice, because private practice can be very isolating, and sometimes we feel on our own. Because when we were in the hospital, we have other healthcare team members to work together, like the physiotherapists, the pharmacists, doctors, right? But when we stand alone, we don't have anyone to work together with us. But we believe that every individual patient, they have different needs. And some of them, they need guidance on the exercise. Some of them need guidance on how to use the insulin. This is what we call personalized care, because this is the most effective in changing a person's behavior.
Yeah, please.
So the recommendation is we can collaborate with other private health centers, okay? And also when our client needs this service, we can share the contact. So the second challenge is no referral from the... All right, okay. Okay, thank you. So let me go to the... Okay, so with this, I end my presentation here. So actually, let me share a very, very short introduction. Because why we started on this journey, because we realized that many people, they have very minor health issue in the beginning. And all these could have been fixed at earlier stage. But due to lack of knowledge, they don't have guidance and fear of going to the hospital, they neglect their health. So when they finally show up in the hospital, most of them are in a critical stage. So our goal is to provide the general public a very convenient platform to seek for a dietitian's help without going through all the lengthy procedures and long waiting time. Okay, so thank you for your attention. If you need any help, you can always drop me an email at this marjoing@gmail.com. So with this, thank you so much.